Assalamu alaikum friend, this is Abdullah Shami with you, and today we are going with a recorded lecture. And today we are going to talk about one very important thing. We are going to initiate a discussion related to the sociological perspectives, because these perspectives are very important. This is all about to view something. Actually, sociology is a study of society, and there are multiple ways to look into the society. There are multiple ways, or you can say multiple perceptions related to the society. Some people assume that this society is very good and this society must go as it's going on. Let's suppose they demand for the stability within the society. Actually, according to them, the society is doing amazing job and everything is simple, everything is meritocratic. Meritocratic means merit exists within the society, so we need to stabilize the system. We need to work for the stabilization of the society or economy and everything. But on the other hand, there are some people, according to them, this society is not good at all, because this society is creating some social inequality. It could be a class inequality and it could be a gender inequality. According to some people, the society, according to some theorists, actually, this society is all about the idea of what? The society is all about the idea of inequality. Related the whole society, the whole functioning of society, the whole stability of society may lead towards inequality within the society. Okay, so we must need to initiate the discussion. It's all about, whenever we are going to talk about a perspective, you must need to know about it, that this discussion is going to be initiated during the time of industrialization. Okay, we used to say it's the modernity. Okay, there is a pre-modern era, there is a modern era. Okay, and the modern era starts from the industrialization, you can say 1750s onwards, after the French Revolution. So you can easily understand this thing. These thoughts must have some linkages related to the industrialization. Okay, actually, whenever we used to talk about the modern thoughts, we need to talk about the core perspectives of sociology. The core perspective of sociology is all about the functionalism, Marxism, interactionism, you can say feminism. These all are the core concepts of the these are core concepts of sociological perspectives. Okay, actually, whenever we used to talk about the idea related to the sociological perspectives, we need to initiate a discussion with industrialization. Because why we used to link these discussion with industrialization? Because according to some people, industrialization is very good for the society. This industrialization may lead towards development in economy, development in individual lifestyle and everything. But according to some people, this industrialization may lead towards a class inequality within the society. If I have some capital, if I have some money in my hands, if I have some private property, I retain some property. So what happened? I can initiate a business and then I can employ the people, and I can just make them sure that they are doing whatever I demand. Okay, according to them, the society, the industrial society, the modern society is just like that. There is a previous societies, you can say the pre-modern society, were based on the idea of what? They based around the idea of master and slave. There is a master and there is a slave. Master used to dictate the slave, and slave need to work as per the master's wish. So in the industrial societies also, there are some capitalists who used to direct the working class individuals, who used to direct their employees, their manual workers, their non-manual workers. So they need to act as per the demand of the society, or you can say they need to act as per the demand of the capitalists. So they according to them, there is no differentiation within the pre-modern sides of society and the modern side of the society, because in the both sides the class inequality exists. Okay, first we need to understand this thing, that in pre-modern times, what happened? The pre-modernity is based around the idea of primary sector, or you can say that the pre-modern time is based around the idea of agriculture based industry, where there are some farmers and there are some landlords. The landlords used to exploit the farmers, and there's a system of inequality. There's a master there. You can easily understand this thing, that there's a master and slave. If you are able to understand the difference between the master and slave, you can easily understand this thing. The master used to exploit the slaves. So we need to understand this thing. But after modernity, the world has changes. The world social dynamics is going to be changed. Is going to be whenever we used to talk about the social dynamics, it's more about the idea of society. We are saying that you are not it's not, master and slave relationship is not a good relationship. We used to initiate the discussion with the equality. The world has changed with a lot of signs of equality, but according to some theorists, it's not like that. It's more about the idea of what, let's suppose, there are some institutions who make sure that everything looks pretty on the surface, but on the behind of that thing, behind the walls of this industrialization, there is exploitation going on within the classes. On the other hand, there are some theorists who claims that there is exploitation within the gender roles. Also, there's exploitation between by the men to the females. There's a patriarchy exists within the society, just like a traditional societies, and just like a pre-modern societies. Okay, so as far as this concept is concerned, this more about this is the one way of thinking the society. Whenever I am teaching perspectives, I used to say one very basic thing. Let's suppose there is a glass of water. You are saying that the glass is half empty, and I'm saying the glass is half filled. The both are right. Okay, at some extent, both concepts are right, and you can criticize me, and I can criticize you. It's more about the healthy discussion. This is all about the modernity. This is all about a debate, because debate is the initiative for any solution. Once you debate about something, once you discuss about something, that is the very best thing to understand something and to initiate the solutions. You are never ever be able to initiate the solutions once you are not able to debate on it. Once you are going to debate about it, you are going to create you are able to create some solutions out of it. Okay, so before starting up the core concepts, first we need to understand the concept of determinism. There is a structural force element. According to some, actually, first we need to understand this thing. There are two basic areas to understand this thing. There's some macro view of society, which we used to say the macro sociological view. It's more about the idea of determinism. Whenever we are going to say this thing, the structural force drives an individual action. Whenever we are going to say the structural force is going to drive individual action, what it means, it's a very simple phenomena. Whenever we are going to initiate this thing, that the structural force is going to apply on an individual, and individual action is based on that structural force. Okay, so let's suppose if I'm doing something, there must be a structural force behind my action. Okay, so this is a deterministic approach. This is all about, and whenever it means the society is going to redirect an individual towards particular action, the society is going to pressurize an individual towards particular action. If you are going to study the society, you are able to understand the individual action. Let's suppose we discussed it earlier on. I hope we have discussed this earlier. So that individual is dependent on, try to understand this thing, individual is dependent on the structural forces. Individual is dependent on the structural forces. Whenever I'm going to say this thing, the individual is dependent on the structural forces, what it means, that individual action is going to drive by the social forces. Okay, let's say an example. There's a law within the society, and that law could be considered as a social force behind individual action. I'm going to follow the signals. What it means a very simple thing, that I need to follow the social order of the society. I need to follow the structure of the society. I need to follow I need to act as per the social forces. Okay, so this is very important thing. So there are some sociologists who claim that the society runs as per the structural forces, and according to some sociologists, society is not on the basis, society is not on the individual action is not dependent on the structural forces. Individual has a free will. There's a concept of free will and determinism. Determinism is all about the structural forces concept, and free will is all about individual. We are going to say whenever we talk about the freedom of individual is just free to choose whatever they want. They can act as per their own will. Okay, so free will and structure determinism are totally different thing. Free will is more about the micro sociological view. Free will stands for every individual is different from another individual. Every individual is different from another individual. Every individual acts on his own will. Okay, so this is the micro sociological view, and that's a macro sociological view. Today we are going to initiate the discussion related to what we are going to initiate the discussion with the structuralist approaches. and then we continue the discussion with the interactionist one also. So whenever I'm going to talk about the structuralist approaches, it's more about the idea of this determinism, the structure, macro. They used to prefer they used to prefer the society rather than individual. Whenever they are saying that whenever we used to study the society, then we are automatically we are able to know about the individual, because individual action is dependent on the society. Individual action is dependent on the society. Whenever we are going to say this thing, the individual action is dependent on the society, it means it's a very simple phenomena that individual action is dependent on the society. So whenever we are going to study the society, we are able to understand the individual action, because individual action is dependent on the structural forces. Okay. On the other hand, as far as the free will approach is concerned, it's more about interactionist approach, or you can say that approach, that deterministic approach, is called structuralist approach. That is what is structuralist, based on the whole approach based on its structure. Okay. So according to interactionist approach, it's the micro sociological view in which we are going to say this thing: the individual has a freedom to do whatever they want. They can do if they love to do any one thing, they can do. Every individual is free to do anything. It's a micro sociological view, or you can say this thing: every individual is different from another individual. Every individual is different from another individual. Once I'm going to say this thing, every individual is different from another individual, so it would be very easy for you to understand this thing, or you can claim this thing, that we need to study the society in the individualistic manner. We need to study society into micro sociological manner, not in a macro sociological manner. Interactionists used to prefer this thing, that as every individual is different from another individual, so we need to interact with an individual, and we need to study the action of individual, because according to them, individual action is based on belief of an individual. If you believe in something, if you have some beliefs related to some particular idea, so you are going to act in a particular way. So as far as the interactionist view of society is concerned, it's more about the idea of micro-sociological view. Every individual action is dependent on the belief of an individual. If you want to change, if you want to get some revolution within the society, you need to change the belief of an individual. And according to interactionists, first you need to work on the individualistic beliefs. Once you are going to work on individualistic belief, and which may result into action, and that action may lead towards change. So there's a formula of BAC. I used to say this thing, BAC formula: belief, action into change. Belief, action into change. Okay. So whenever we are going for this purpose, we need to understand this thing. There are two approaches. Number one is deterministic approach. Number two is interactionist approach. Okay, or you can say free will approach. Deterministic approach is linked with the structuralism, and the free will approach is linked with the interactionism. Okay, so this is all about the two views to look into society. You can easily understand this, and these are the two perceptions related to it. One is going to study the society, one is going to study the individual. One is used to study the society into macro manner, then another person is going to study society into the micro manner, or you can say individualistic manner. I hope the things are okay now. Okay, so this is all about once I'm going to summarize this whole lecture till now. There is a structuralist approach based on a macro sociological view, and based on the structural approach, according to them, the whole structure of society is dependent on what? Structural forces. But on the other hand, there is another approach which is called interactionist approach, based on the idea of free will, or you can say the micro sociological view, because they assume that we need to study society in the individualistic manner. Okay, so this is all about the core basic theories. Okay, afterwards, now we are moving forward, and we are going to study this thing into the whole different way. It's all about the idea of what we are going to understand this thing. Structuralism is based around the idea of what there are two types of structure. There are further two division within the structuralism. Number one is all about the consensus approach. Number two is all about the conflict approach. According to consensus approach, we need to go for the stability. They demand for the stability. They want, as the things are going on, they support it as it is. Okay, so but on the other hand, the conflict approach used to oppose the idea of existing social order. They need a revolution. Why they need a revolution? If you want to change something, there is some problem within the existence of social order. That's why you are going for the change. The main purpose of the conflict approaches is all about the social inequality. Rather it could be the class inequality, rather it could be the gender inequality. They used to oppose existing social order just because of this social inequality. They want to remove this social inequality within the society. But on the other hand, the consensus approach used to support the idea of what? They used to support the idea of existing social order, because according to them, the society is very important for them. Society is sacred. Society is so much sacred for them. So definitely they want to support the existing social order. According to them, the all social institutions, according to, I'm talking about a consensus approach, these social institutions of the society is very important. Let's suppose let's suppose family, education, media, religion. These all social institutions are just like a organ of the human body, just like the organ of the human body. Okay, so why is this so? Because according to them, all these social institutions are performing several important functions for the society. Okay, and these functioning may lead towards the functioning of the society, because the whole human body, the functioning of the human body is dependent on what? The functioning of the human body is dependent on individual, on the organs. Okay, the functioning of the human body is dependent on organs. As the organ used to work, the human body used to work. So we need to understand this idea that the whole system is dependent on this. So functionalists, or you can say that the consensus approach people, consensus approach theorists will support the idea of existing social order, because this social order may lead towards what? This social order may lead towards the functioning of the society. On the other hand, the conflict theorists like Marxists, or you can say feminists, these theorists will definitely oppose the idea of existing social order, or you can say the existing working of society, because they assume that this existing working of society may lead towards social inequality. According to Marxists, existing social order may lead towards a class inequality. Okay, there are two classes. You can say the ruling class and working class. You can say ruling. According to Marxists use the term bourgeoisie for the ruling class, and they use the proletariat term for the working class. So what it means, it's a very basic idea that this differentiation may lead towards what? This differentiation may lead towards the idea of this differentiation may lead towards the idea of class inequality. This thing may lead towards class inequality. Classes are going to be unequal. Okay, both classes are become unequal. They are so much unequal. Let's suppose the ruling class used to oppress the working class. The ruling class used to oppress the working class of the society. The ruling class used to oppress the working class of the society with no reason. Okay, there are a lot of reasons behind it, because they want to protect their private property and everything. So we'll discuss it later on. But the thing is this: you need to understand this idea that according to Marxists, the existing social order may lead towards the class inequality. Okay, moving furthermore, there is another conflict approach which is considered as feminism. According to feminists, existing social order may lead towards the gender inequality. Existing social order may lead towards gender inequality. How is this so? It's a very simple phenomenon. According to feminists and according to Marxists, both they oppose existing social order, and they assume that all these social institutions may lead towards social inequality. According to Marxists, the family is going to reproduce a class inequality. How? We'll discuss later on. The education system is going to establish the class inequality. How? We will discuss later on. And media, religion, workplace, economy, and everything is going to reproduce the class inequality. And same as feminists. Feminists assume that all these social institutions may lead towards the gender inequality. How is this? So I'm just going to share this basic idea. According to feminists, the family is going to reproduce the gender inequality, because according to feminists, the family is going to reproduce the gender roles, or you can say the gendered roles, or you can say the segregation within the genders. How is this? So the male are trained with the instrumental role, or you can say the economic role for the society. On the other hand, females are trained into the expressive or emotional role for the society. Okay, so as you can easily understand this thing, the blue color is going to be linked with the boy, and pink color is linked with the girl, because all these elements, these segregations, actually Feminists don't like segregation. They say, assume that this segregation may lead towards inequality. Once I'm going to say this thing, actually the thing is that the segregation may lead towards inequality. It could be a class inequality, it could be a gender inequality. Once I'm going to assume every individual as a single individual, as a simple individual, once I'm not going to segregate two individuals as the upper class or the working class, then there is no way of class inequality. Or once I'm not going to segregate the roles of a male and female, there is no way of there is no point of inequality, or you can say the gender inequality. But if I am going to segregate two individuals, once I'm going to say this, she's a girl and she's a boy, so this thing may lead towards inequality. I hope the things are okay now. So we are assuming the idea that this is actually inequality, this is all about inequality part. So according to them, family is going to reproduce gender inequality, and afterwards the education system is going to lead the particular gender inequality with the help of gendered curriculum, and afterwards the workplace is going to create a gender inequality through horizontal segregation and vertical segregation. I just want to share one thing to you. The vertical segregation means the upper position of organizations is going to be controlled by the males, and lower position of the organization is going to be controlled by the females. So this is the all these social institutions. Let's suppose media is going to represent female into different way, and the religion, they have some views related to the religion also. So according to them, all these social institutions may lead towards social inequality. It could be in the form of the class, it could be in the form of gender inequality. So according to them, this is a conflict approach. You can easily understand. Now I'm going to back. There is one approach which is considered as structuralist approach, macro level view of society or deterministic view of society, in which they assume that the structure of society is going to run by the social forces and individual action is dependent on social forces. Okay. On the other hand, we have an assumption of interactionist perspective, who assume that the society is made up of individual action, and individual action is dependent on beliefs of a person. So they study society into individualistic manner. They used to study society into the individualistic manner, or you can say they study society into the micro level view, or you can say the micro sociological view. So they give the power to the individual, and deterministic people give the power to the society. So the interactionists used to study society into the individualistic manner, and they assume that the whole structural forces is dependent on what? There's nothing like structural forces. They assume that the interactions assume that there is nothing like structuralist forces. Every individual is free to choose whatever they want. So they want to know, if they want to study a society, they believe on individual, and they said that this thing, or if you want to study a society, we need to study an individual rather than the society itself. Okay, so moving forward, afterwards, as far as the structuralism is concerned, we need to understand this idea that this is a very simple idea, it's a very basic idea, but it's a very important idea. Why we needed this very important idea? According to the structuralist view, according to as far as the within the structuralist view, there are two opinions. Let's suppose there is number one is all about consensus, who support the social stability. They want to support what social order is going on, whatever is going on, they definitely want to support it. On the other hand, there is a conflict approach who oppose the idea of what? They oppose the idea of existing social order. They oppose the idea of, because they assume that if the existing social order is going on as it is, so it may lead towards what? It may lead towards the class inequality or the gender inequality within the society. Okay, I hope this lecture is good for you. Within this lecture, you are able to understand the idea within the core perspectives of the society. Have a very nice day. Take care, and Allah Hafiz.